This is Laborc, and it is so nice to have you here. These are the colors you need. What? You want to look at the mustache? Okay. There is nothing wrong with a little picking every now and then. This is the last pack of mob from the core box. So I made this playlist where you can find all the mob tutorials. But if you click on my channel, you can find a lot more tutorial for Massive Darkness too. Okay? Okay. After removing the mod lines, I used Vallejo's Grey Primer. For our base coat, I mixed Basilicanum Grey with Dark Oak Flesh. This will be our foundation for the demon skin. Apply it on the wings and the skin. It's crazy how good the plastic feels on this model, especially on the wings. It's much harder and less flexible than the smaller minis in the game. Somehow, the bigger the model is, the better the plastic quality for each mini. Let the paint pool in the crevices. You can do this with an airbrush too. That would be a bit different effect, but it's quite fast using just a brush. Oh, and guys, all the steps are exactly the same for the leader guy, okay? Okay. When our contrast paint dried, we go in there with Baneblade Brown and sketch out the highlight areas on the skin. If you batch paint these guys, then obviously you don't need to wait for the drying time. If you saw my previous speed paint videos, then you know my method. Sink some time into one part, like we would paint it to a relatively high standard. Then we put only the fracture of that work to the rest of the mini. This way we have a nice focal point. Highlight the shoulders, arms, hands and the face like if the light is coming from above. These are female demons. Except for the leader, which is, I'm pretty sure it's a guy. Or she's just really ugly. Anyway, when you paint a female face, you don't really need separated high contrast areas between the mouth and cheeks. Otherwise, it will look like a guy. Glaze over our layer to smoothly blend it in. Remember guys, we start the brush stroke in the dark area and end it in the bright area. Same motion every time, or I'll slap on your tiny hand. For maximum brush control, always unload your brush on a paper towel, okay? Always give a happy ending to your brush, otherwise your glaze will be too runny and it will set like stains. Obviously that's not good and your only reward will be a slap on your tiny hand. Now paint the eyes with moon dust. If you apply the contrast paint nicely, her eye sockets are dark, which is very good when you are painting lady eyes, because the dark parts will act like an eyeliner or eyeshadow. Try to paint it from the sideways to have a nice almond-like shape. Now we go in with rock art flesh and increase the contrast on the skin. Remember not to make a separation between the mouth and the cheek. Papa Laborc did that, but soon he will realize that her demon is a bit more masculine. So don't do that. Here is a picture of the finished face, what I was aiming for. See? Sexy demon face, not a dude. Thin layer consistency, so you will have a smooth transition between the layers. Do not forget about the wings. Apply the paint at the top part with some quick brush stroke. Don't try to make the gradients perfect, because you're gonna lose valuable time. Then glaze over the rock art flesh layer to increase the smoothness. Now add some ivory to the rock art flesh to increase the contrast even more. We don't want our demons to be pale, so decrease the highlight areas with this mixture. Just a tiny bit on the shoulders, on the nose and under the eyes, and you'll be good to go. Put some of this on the horn grooves, so it will make it shiny, like the horns have some glossy finish, which I think looks very fitting, and move our focal point more towards the face. Oh, and highlight the lower part of the lips with this color. I covered those nice goat legs and the tail with Dumble Brown, base layer consistency. Then I mixed some rock art flesh to the Dumble Brown and sketched out some highlights. I think the tail is not covered as fur because of the wrinkles on it. So I tried to make it shiny, so just put some highlights along the wrinkles. After that, I used Mephiston Red on the leather straps around her waist. Just cover them with base layer consistency. For the fabric around her waist, I used Raphael flash, pulling it towards the top of the fabric in a thin layer consistency. Then, with a heavy glaze of ivory, I put some highlights on there to make it look like a whitish rock. Try to make separate sections so you will have some soft shadows thanks to a Raphael fresh layer, and always pull the paint in the same direction when you are painting with thin layers, like you would do with glazes. Then I increase the contrast on the tail with Raphael flash as well, same way like I did before along the wrinkles with a thin layer or a heavy glaze. The highlights get a bit messy, so I did some black lining with the dark oat Basilicanum Grey mixture. For the rake or the pitchfork, I went back with Dumble Brown. Now for her armor, I used Greedy Gold. Cover all the nooks and crannies, and also do that for the pitchfork and wrist guard, and also there is a small ring on her right arm, so cover that as well. Don't forget to cover the end of the leather straps around her waist with Greedy Gold. After that, I give it a big wash of Nuln Oil. Let it flow into the crevices and try not to stain the skin or the white robes. Lastly, I went back to the wings with a really diluted glaze of Baraknar Burgundy. It will give us a nice hue for the wings. If you want, you can use it on the dark parts of the skin too. It will create some depth for the shadowy parts. But only use it on the darker parts. You don't want to stain the highlights with this color. As I mentioned before, these guys took like 1 hour plus per minute, so you'll be a judge of whether that is fast or not. I think for the end result, it's pretty good quality to time ratio, but that's just Papa Laborc's humble opinion. If you like the result, please leave a comment and like the video. Thank you for joining me on this little painting adventure. A huge thanks to my patrons who support these kind of videos, with special shoutouts to Jonathan Rhodes, Dominic Reitman, and Trying to Paint Minis. If you want to support Papa Laborc on Patreon, you can find the link in the video description. You will have early access to these videos and you can vote on the next mini. I hope the rest of your day will be as smooth as a granny's butt cheek.